Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match beyond all reason, where today we are taking a look at a top level 1v1 that was played between some top level players here on Feast of Hades, which apparently has a downright beautiful skybox. I never really took a second to, a little chuggy there, took a little second to look around here, but my goodness, what a beautiful sky background we have here with like the nebula or whatever it is on the back of the sky. Yeah. Very beautiful looking skybox I just never adored. Anyway, figured I'd share that with you as we get underway in today's game. Between some top level pros that I guess we may as well meet now are Cortex Commander, who's going to be representing the red team. A commander you all know and love, a commander that goes by the name of Barcast TV, or Pro BC TV, part of the Pro Clan, and one of the founders of the 1v1 scene in general and beyond our reason, but has organized plenty of the tournaments over there. Going to be going into some good old-fashioned core bots. Now, spawning on the other side here is a Blue Legion commander. Yes, prepping for some of the tournaments of May. Going to be going by the name of OZ Video of the BAC clan. Not sure, I haven't heard of this one, but I know there's a couple of new clans that have been popping up recently. Very excited to see some skirmish matches from those clans as they start to practice against each other. But BAC OZ Video going to be the Blue Legion commander, showing off what they've got today. And my goodness, what a great opportunity to showcase the new Legion Resbot, looking bizarre. I love this thing. What a cute little freak. Yeah. This thing looks absolutely crazy, and I think that's awesome. I mean, look at this thing. Oh man, it's got little tubes running around all over. It's got little spinny I don't know, antennae or something all over. It's got little fuel cells on its arms as well. I mean, what a cool design for a unit. Definitely looks very alien, right? Very Xeno. Kind of has that quadrupededness that a lot of Legion stuff does, but also kind of, I don't know, has a much less human look to it, where some of the Gundams and whatnot that Legion has look very human, look even more human than some of the other factions. But this is definitely very far out there. I'm cool to see. I'm glad to see it. I think it looks very cool. Definitely an interesting style on that one. Anyways, a 1v1 game. A 1v1 game and on Theta Crystals here. Pardon me, not Theta Crystals. Feast of Hades, which is far and away one of the most common 1v1 maps. We've seen this map used all the time. It's also a very popular 4v4 map, as you can see. There's kind of 4 great spawning locations. You kind of have one over here, one here, and then one up here. You can also do 5, I guess, if you have one person here, and then you have kind of an air player and then 4 frontline players. But I digress, because these guys are already underway. We have a little bit of aggression already, as a couple of these goblins do shut down one of the rascals that was sent across right here, and we do have another one moving on up north. That rascal can be looking for every opportunity to snag a kill that it can. We do have a constructor moving up there, so it might be able to find some value, but at least for the time being, not going to be the case. These players don't know where each other are, right, at the start of the game. There is, you know, unlike games like StarCraft 2, for instance, where you know exactly where your opponent has spawned, you don't actually know in Beyond Our Reason exactly where the opponent is going to be, and there we go. Looks like one of these rascals does figure it out, and that must clue Barcast in that there is something going on over here. Yep, that Resbot is going to be targeted down quite nicely here. Oh, little citizen's arrest, maybe? Hey, he gets it. The Resbot stays alive with 5% HP. And it looks like this rascal will be cleaned up here as well. Oh, nice attempt at the repair micro right there from the Blue Commander. Doesn't manage to keep it alive, but at the very least, the Goblin does shut down that rascal before it can do anything else. And this Resbot is going to slowly but surely regenerate back up to full HP. Fun little fact for anybody who might be curious about it. Any unit that produces energy in this game will also regenerate HP. It's kind of just one of those underlying things in Beyond Our Reason, but any constructor does produce a little bit of energy, and they will also, of course, because they produce energy, well, it's not, maybe it's not obvious, maybe it's not of course, but because they produce energy, or at least it's a pattern I've noticed, is that all the units that do produce energy also regenerate their HP a little bit over time. Very slightly over time, but a little bit nonetheless. One of those weird random tidbits to be aware of. Now, as far as 1v1 goes, this is a bit of a difficult game for me to call. We have a little bit of action going on. We have a couple of these goblins trying to harass down whatever they can over here, but 3 goblins doesn't beat an incisor tanks. Goblins are, I would say, more on the power scale of like a tick. They're a little bit less powerful than a grunt, but they have a little bit more range. It means that you can kite with them and be super annoying. This incisor will find some. Yep, there you go. As long as you're microing them, they can be very annoying on the other side of the map. They're difficult to contest, and especially for core commanders, because those incisors aren't particularly quick. A couple of these goblins piled together can actually do a lot of damage, or at the very least start to scrape off the paint on some of these units, giving them a very hard time holding on to all this, but a nice expansion here nonetheless from the Red Commander. Despite all the aggression, despite the goblins across the map, we do have a, yeah, some very nice expansion right now from Barcast, who has gone into a construction turret already and is continuing to pump out a whole bunch of these tanks all over the field. Now, one thing I wouldn't mind is seeing an early pounder. Getting 1 or 2 of these pounders out on the field can be super, there it is, the pounder tank, can be super dangerous against some of these early Legion units, especially these goblins. They're very paper thin. Yeah, you can see, when they're microed properly, they can be very dangerous. And now we're up to sufficient numbers that they can actually do some work as they blast away here at some of these light tanks and scouts. They're very pesky to deal with. Oh, I love to see it. This is what I've been waiting for in 1v1. We've gotten the opportunity to check out a whole bunch of Legion players in the recent tournaments that we've been watching. There was the Faction Wars, which just concluded. As of recording this, it concluded yesterday, so that was a whole bunch of fun. The sorry, the qualifiers for that concluded. There will still be a grand finals going on, but that was the I believe there's two more tournaments before the grand finals, or one tournament and then the grand finals. But anyways, the Faction Wars is still ongoing, but the qualifiers for that wrapped up yesterday, which was a lot of fun. A couple of these goblins sneaking through. Oh, it's so annoying. Yeah, these goblins are so pesky. But when they find an angle to attack from, they can do tons and tons of damage. The little machine guns firing away right here and cracking open that constructor. Oh, he wants the kill. Oh, and just barely gets the kill on the constructor. Wonderfully done. Worth losing every single one of those goblins to kill that constructor. All of a sudden, this expansion is completely shut down. That's going to have to be re-queued right here by the Red Commander, and in fact, it will be. As you can see, Barcast actually pulls the Commander himself away from this lab. Now that the construction turrets are up and running, that's 400 build power available right here for the Red Commander. No longer is the Commander needed there, the actual Commander needed there as a source of mobile build power. But alright, are we ready to step up this composition? It looks like we sure are. The Blue Commander expanding super greedily with this Commander. I love to see it, because one of the things you gotta know about Legion, I keep breaking this down until Legion is, I feel like until Legion is in the base game, I ought to continue explaining this, but Legion metal extractors don't actually extract 100% of the resources. So you can see this is a 1.9 metal spot right here. This extractor is actually only pulling 1.5. So it means as a Legion Commander, you have to be very aggressive out on the map to get the full value out of your metal extractors, but your units are also very cheap, so it's very easy to do that. So that's one of the trade-offs when you're playing Legion you have to be aware of, is everything is very energy expensive because the metal is so cheap. So you're very low on metal, but everything costs a whole bunch more energy, so you have to be very on top of building more and more energy production, even than normally you would with, for instance, core or arm. There's more I could get into, but that would take all day, and I think it probably deserves its own dedicated video. I don't know. Let me know if you would like a in-depth Legion look. They are officially, quote-unquote, done with Legion now that the T1 and T2 vehicles, bots, and air have all been completely flushed out. I believe that does mean that we are basically ready for... Yeah, we are basically ready for our Thesaurus. I did one for Armada and for Cortex already, the unit Thesaurus, where you can go watch me break down literally every single unit except for seaplanes in all those videos. I will probably refresh all those videos once Legion hits the main docket. For the time being, though, we will just enjoy some casts and watch some gameplay here as these lobbers get shut down. Lobbers are the light plasma bot available to Legion. They fire a teensy tiny little plasma projectile at immense range, and for only 60 metal a pop and 400 energy. Like I said, very, very dirt cheap for these units. They do a good job. Yeah, they can start to harass these units, especially if you can catch your opponent lacking right here. If they're not paying attention and suddenly you jump on top of them with a bunch of these lobbers here, you can get a lot of work done. More and more of these units coming out right here. I think we need to start spamming lobbers for a little while. We've got plenty of Satyr queued up here. It's their actual name, that's their Christian name. Lobber was their previous title before they recently received a little bit of a rename to fit in with the naming convention of Legion a little bit better here. Constructor running for its life on all of its legs. It's two buff front legs and then its little skinny hind legs back there. The LHT is doing a great job. Light heat ray towers. Whole bunch of incisor breakthrough. Now this is, granted, 1,000 metal worth of incisors in the enemy backline. If we can manage to kill all these metal extractors and deny these areas for quite some time, this is going to be well worth it. Like, this can definitely be a play that's worth pushing here because, well, you do more than 1,000 damage in economy damage, right? All the metal that's not being reclaimed or extracted, all that good stuff. Yeah, I would say these incisors have done it, especially if they can move down on the southern side and even get out on this northern side. That'd be wonderful. If we can keep these alive to live another day, that would be spectacular. But we already have the Resbots resurrecting a bunch of them. Ooh, this is dangerous. So, one of the dangers of going up against a bot lab player is, of course, Resbots. As those Resbots start to pick up your units and use them against you, suddenly you can find yourself fighting their army and your army all at the same time. Looks like it's going to be an air switch right here from the blue commander. Actually, not a transition, just a expansion here. Expanding into air to get a couple of these good old-fashioned scout fighters, the Noctuas, out, as well as some of these gunships to chase away these early incisors. And not doing a bad job of it either. Yeah, those light missiles are actually great against the incisors because they don't overkill very much. It means that they can do wonderful work against some of these early assault units or these early aggressors. And you know what? I think the Resbots have done it. Even the Constructor gets resurrected here. Lovely stuff. These freaky little Resbots are going to be able to pick this thing back up and get it back and running again. And we already have the Constructors re-expanding once more on this front line. I would love to see these guys pulled away in order to... Oh, well, let's finish the mechs first. Oh no. Oh, this poor metal extractor. Couple of incisor in the back line right here. They will find a Constructor. Hopefully we can blast that down. Nicely done. Yeah, Constructor does go down. We've got the gunships to chase these down as well. I like to play with the mosquitoes, actually. Yeah, I'm liking this more and more right here. These mosquitoes are getting tons and tons of value. Their ability to cross the map quick enough, and then, of course, fire their little recharging missiles here. Not the fastest kill in the world, but obviously for their mobility and their ability to actually catch incisors, yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. Resbot's now going to try and resurrect as much of this as they can. Lobber's still continuing to clean this up. And eventually I think that incisor will go down. Okay. We've set ourselves up nicely here now. We've got Lobbers and Incisor, resurrected Incisor, moving into the backline. We can actually switch to the player cam here of the blues. This is what the blue commander is saying, trying to micro these units around in every direction possible here. Hoping to find whatever value that they can. LHT being... doing good work shutting down some of those units over there. We are also making a transition into vehicles, going to be pivoting into some of those good old-fashioned Legion Helios. On the red side of things, we got BCTV playing from a much shallower angle here. Low down on the map, very hands-on with the units, trying to micro those as much as possible. We've also got fighters and shuriken available. The superpower of the Cortex faction is those shuriken, which of course are quite useful for dealing with any of these run-bys, making those static defenses much more effective. We've got the T1 fighters clashing against the Noctua. The Noctua are quite a bit worse than those other T1 fighters, so it does mean that, yeah, at the very least, Barcast is going to trade out pretty favorably here. Not bad at all. I don't show the player cam very often because a lot of times these guys are whizzing around all over the place. It becomes a little bit dizzying to watch, but sometimes it's nice to check out what these guys are actually doing, what commanding their army actually looks like right here. As you can see, we've continued to invest in multiple different dimensions of Legion here. We've got the vehicles, the air, and the bots all coming out. We've got those newly remodeled, what are they called now? Phobos, fast assault units. Look at it galloping around. Oh man, what a cool animation. Oh man, what a really neat animation on that guy. It's got all four of its legs. I wish I could orbit around right here. I can't really do that, but anyways. Yeah, that is a four-legged assault bot. So basically it runs by, it has super small range, as you can see. It runs by and does a big burst of damage right here. I believe it once fired 3 projectiles, now it fires 2. And does a good amount of damage for it. They're very fast traveling. They can be used in a lot of weird ways to assault bases that otherwise have a really fortified position by just simply running past static defenses. One of those superpowers, I guess, of units with speed. Another incisor ball pushing forward over here. The LHG will do good work blasting those down. Whenever fighting head-on, the LHG is going to get a significant damage boost just for the fact that its laser is on target for the entire time that the unit is being fired at. There you go. Yeah, you can see when those units are slowed down, the yeah, those heat ray towers gain a huge boost to their effective damage. Lobbers firing firing high into the air to target down the fighters here. Maybe not the best use of those lobbers time, but there we go. They will eventually push this back. Big old battle on this side. Leaves a bunch of corpses. Likewise, incisors pushing around on the left-hand side here to flash down all of the opposition, trying to stop these metal extractors from coming up on the high ground here. LLTs will be enough to stop all this, though, and that's an excellent defense for the red commanders. You can see metal advantage fluctuating back and forth right here, based almost entirely on the reclaim, but you can see the Redcom has decided to, Barcast rather, has decided to stick with vehicles and then go into some air, whereas the blue commander is sort of pivoting all around. So I'm surprised to see that we have these Phobos coming up, but we're not using them quite yet. At least I haven't seen where they've been used here. We do have a couple of them spread out on the front lines, but the lobbers and the goblins are both trying to hold it together, but frankly, there's too many incisors here. At this point, we have nearly 2,000 metal worth of incisors cleaning up this front line here that's only a couple hundred. The math is not in your favor. The shuriken here also being targeted down by the Noctua. Noctua? What did Noct 1 say to Noct 2? How are you doing today, Noct 2? Noct 2 said, that one needs a little bit of work. I'll keep working on that one. I'll report back later once I have that joke figured out. But anyways. Helios tanks, the good old-fashioned heat ray tanks firing away into the distance right here. Very dangerous to play against, especially if the opponent has any Resbots at all, because these tanks typically hit way above their weight class. They can go toe-to-toe with the other light tanks, which is primarily what the Red Commander Barcast is going for here. And then, of course, if in decent enough numbers, they can also blast down these medium tanks relatively quickly. Yeah, you can see doing numbers against these medium tanks here, whereas the medium tanks have to fire those plasma projectiles, which are much slower and don't do as much damage total. Nice jump right here. Excellent shape on this engagement for the Red Commander, though. Does take this fight with the concave. Means that the blue forces are being focused down quite nicely, but I think there might just barely be enough. There's those Phobos coming out now. Firing away their little rapid-fire burst shot. Very effective against medium tanks because they can avoid most of the plasma projectiles, and then, of course, they can also deal a stupid amount of damage when they get a giant surround going as well. Yeah, these Noctua are kind of garbage against the T1 fighters of the other factions here. Yeah, a bunch of these mosquitoes get caught. Well, it's a huge catch for the Red Commander. These Noctua are also not paying attention very much. There we go. Yeah, went in behind. Whoa, wait a minute. We have T2 lab up and running. My goodness, I didn't even notice the transition. The T1 Legion and T2 Legion labs look very, very similar, but there we go. Okay. I didn't even notice, but we've already got a couple of those Legionnaire up and running. Okay, so the T2 fighters for the Legion faction are now up and running and, well, firing away as they find any new targets. That also opens up a whole big avenue of other opportunities here. So one of which, of course, is all the T2 buildings that we all know and love, the T2 metal extractors and all that good stuff. Some of the lesser known ones, the better Legion ones, or things that work very well for Legion, are of course the, oh man, poor Resbots being mismicroed right here. We have things like the gunships. We have things like the transport gunships here, the strongholds. We also have these mine layers, which might be very effective in a game like this, where you have loads and loads of T1 units running around all over the place. Using the mine layer bomber to cut off different areas. Like, I can imagine laying a bunch of mines in the big open areas over on this side, for instance, could be a great way of shutting down pushes on that angle while allowing you to move your units through basically without issue. Got some constructors uncontested over here. Looks like you killed one of them, but not the other. These guys are really good. The Legionnaires are effectively a defensive fighter. In fact, I think that's even what they're called down here. Yeah, defensive fighter. Basically, they have a super tight turning radius. They're very, very effective at kiting and maneuvering around. They just aren't very fast. They're kind of slow, and so it means that when moving across the map, they're very easy to detect and move units into position to defend against. That's because Legion also has access to another unit called the Interceptor, I believe. No, the Venator, the fast, high-damage Interceptor. Basically, it's a shotgun aircraft. It fires a big spray of projectiles forward whenever it finds another aircraft. It does a big burst of damage rather than, you know, kind of firing multiple missiles in succession. It is kind of difficult to quantify how effective those can be because typically they either win an entire fight or they lose an entire fight. It's very, very odd to say, but they kind of are either, they're very polarized. They work phenomenally or they don't work very well at all. There are some circumstances here where they work tremendously, though, and one option would, of course, be Cortex T2 Dragons. One of the best units for killing dragons in the game. T2 Fighter is not terrible on their own, but those are especially good at it because, yeah, they do a big burst of damage, so there's not really time for the dragon to defend itself with its onboard SAM system. T2 Tanks rolling out here for Barcast TV, who has stepped into a fusion reactor as well, that 4,500 metal, 1,100 energy producing structure on the field here to produce a little bit of energy. We do also have one of these stronghold gunships firing away now at the units on the ground. It doesn't do the most damage, but it's also not very expensive at 550 metal for a T2 unit as well as a transport. Nonetheless, it is relatively effective. OZ video has scared me a little, though, with this commander out here on the field. Now that we know that T2 is up and running, I things are going to get very sketchy with this commander very shortly. We just saw a game recently where one of the commanders was, it was a back and forth. I believe it was Strawberry versus, I want to say it was Reed Sweet. It was one of the folks around here in the community, basically playing a wonderful back and forth match, and it looks like we were settling into a T3 late game when all of a sudden one of the commanders had stepped a little too far forward, building metal extractors, and just like that, yeah, everything went downhill as the commander died. It just got sniped by a bunch of T1, and it looked awful. It really was a bummer, but you know, sometimes that happens. You accidentally queue up 100 mexes and forget about your commander, and all of a sudden you can find yourself with no commanders and no win condition. Medium tanks firing away now, trying to find whatever value that they can. Again, once this T2 starts to hit the field, it can be really difficult. I'd love 1 or 2 Phoenix just to strafe across all this. One or two Phoenix just glassing this entire ball of tanks right here would be super, super nice. Softening a whole bunch of those up, and it would do enough damage that I think the forces would be forced to pull back right here. We do have a couple of AA trucks, which is quite nice, but most of the T2 units are tanky enough, I would say, that they don't really have to worry about anti, or at least not in the short term. If there's enough of them, then obviously they're going to be able to bring them down, but for just a quick raid, it's not going to be enough. Here we go. Couple of strongholds firing away right here. Looking to snipe metal extractors, maybe pop those LLTs and open up attack paths here. We do also have the fighters included, as well as the mosquitoes. All holding on right here and trying to defend it against the reinforcing fighters right now. Or are we going for some kind of snipe? That might be a cheesy play right here. Yeah, looking for the commander and going for a snipe. The mosquitoes also going to be included right now. I like the inclusion of those because it does help with the flanking damage. Mexes, LLTs, yeah, those strongholds do tons of damage. They're not going to be able to... None of these units are going to be able to hold on very well against those shotgunners. They also do impulse, which is kind of nice. Maybe an underrated facet of their usefulness is the fact that they can impulse a lot of the stuff they shoot at, which basically just means that when they fire at it, it knocks it off course and it has to accelerate once more. Not particularly useful against bots because bots tend to, for the most part, accelerate pretty quickly. Vehicles, however, have very poor acceleration, so impulsing a vehicle can have huge effects on a battlefield. Almost like EMPing it, except it can still fire back. But it slows it down, and especially against heat ray weaponry as well, it can be very, very dangerous. Prometheus being used for the flank. Oh, look at this. Look at this cheesy play right here. The Red Commander, by the way, reclaiming with the aircraft is very cool to see. That's a wonderful strategy. Something I've been trying to incorporate into my gaming as well, just a little bit more often, is yeah, getting a couple of these air cons out to reclaim from the front line. Oftentimes, a devastating T3 push will leave behind a wake of metal, but there won't actually be anything to reclaim it. So if you can manage to get even just air cons into the mix to reclaim for a couple of seconds from that front line, you can get huge value. These T2 heat ray tanks are dangerous. Okay, well, fighters have flown right over this and realized, whoa! That stronghold just shot that plane out of the sky with a shotgun. I didn't even know they could do that. What a superpower right there. The other stronghold here helping out a bunch is the mosquitoes as well, joined into the fight. Now the Prometheus is on the flank. Whoa, this is an awkward moment right here. You know, all of a sudden you've got a Prometheus on your flank here. I hope we self-D this. Or we're going for the anti-air here to try and make it a little easier to push in. No self-D on that Prometheus. That is going to be a bunch of metal reclaimed right here by the Red Commander. Barcast does have the Resbots already on the scene to reclaim all this. Oh, Prometheus reinforcements do knock it down, though. The Resbots, that is. And some more Resbots coming out right here. Actually on a Res Command, so they're going to pick up a bunch of these things. A little bit surprised to see that. Now that T2 is on the field, I feel like just going into straight-up T2 would probably be the best option. Now here's a note that I put out there when I was casting the Faction Wars tournament over on the official Beyond a Reason channel. In case you'd like to check those out, by the way, stay tuned to the Discord, which is always linked down below. That's where I post announcements if I remember casting on a different channel, or if you'd like to tune in for our weekly shenanigans, feel free to over on the Brightworks YouTube. There's a Brightworks YouTube channel and a Brightworks Twitch channel. Take your pick. I stream on both channels for, you know, maximum coverage, so in case you'd like to watch on either one of those, feel free to join us over there. Saturdays 12 to 4 PDT is more or less when we usually stream. If there's an event or something, sometimes we will change that slightly, but I think it's time for T3. Javelin are now out on the field. Javelin, I would say, are comparable to Marauders, although slightly more expensive. Coming in at 1,200 metal as opposed to the No, 970 from or for a Marauder. Now these T2 Tigers are so good though. The Legion stuff has so many different options, right? You can go to all these different things. They have all these different strategies you can go for. But at the end of the day, fighters, by the way, did just see the commander, and we did not react. Could have had the play right there. That's Marcast a little bit hyper focused on fighting the army rather than fighting the commander. One of the nice things about Cortex is you simply make Tiger tanks. Yeah, you don't have to worry about compositions or building up these elaborate groups. You just build Tiger tanks, and occasionally you go ahead and build a, you know, you'll throw in a Punisher. What is it called? A Banisher. That's right. Throw in a Banisher or two, maybe a Czar tank if you're feeling extra spicy, but altogether not that much at all. All right, good Deegan right there from OZ Video. Does take down 2 of those Tiger tanks for a whopping 1330 metal grand total. I would be a little bit concerned showing the commander like that. That is a very ridiculously exposed commander. Oh, we're not paying attention. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, don't tell me this is how it ends. That's so tragic. He's not paying attention. Okay, fires off the D-gun. My goodness, that was a close call right there. Down to 54% HP. Imagine if those tanks had split up properly and just blasted it from either side. Oh my goodness, that would have been horrible. That would have been a horrible way for this match to end. We do also have this Javelin just being chilling on the other side of the map, watching and waiting and lurking in Liar, hoping to see maybe if it can get some value. Yeah, we've got co-casters here. Let me mute them real quick. Doing a great job of co-casting though. Yeah, those Legion T3 need to be put to use right here. We do have some carries rolling out of the lab here as well. For 2,600 metal, you get a beast of a tank on the front line here. It has a big riot cannon mounted on top of its front main forward schnozzle. It's also got 2 twin rotary cannons that fire a burst of 50 caliber heavy machine gun out towards the foe. When in doubt, simple kinetics always work. Slug throwers, kinetic kill platforms. Call it what you will, it's a bullet and it's at high speed. Maybe accelerated slightly differently, but the principle is always the same. Hit hard with the thing. Tends to work pretty good. This Javelin is being used very reservedly. I don't know. Now the carries, on the other hand, are taking a frontline engagement against these heavy tanks, and I think this is exactly where you want to keep them. Carries have been compared by many to essentially a pounder, a T3 pounder. Beautiful connection right there against a bunch of the Resbots. Yeah, you can see the AoE on the impulse attack it has is pretty spectacular. And I don't think those constructors are going to get the opportunity to build that metal extractor, but my goodness, Barcat's doing a great job of expanding out on the map, using these aircons to take these mexes that otherwise would be basically inaccessible, and yeah, making them accessible by just being there faster. We do have T3 up and running now from the T3 Red Laboratory. It's Shiva's marching out on the field, makes a lot of sense. I would like to see Karganeths or maybe a demon or two. Demons are no longer amphibious, but they are fast, and you can sneak a couple of them. You can almost imagine a demon running by in this direction, trying to find some value. Looks like Shiva will be sent to scout it out first, and maybe afterwards we'll see those good old-fashioned T3 Hellspitters firing away with their Hellfire out towards the very well-equipped blue player here. Carrie's doing a great job blasting the metal extractor. We do have the wheelies being spammed out here as well for vision, which is super annoying. Also annoying for the red commander because it means that these Shiva might friendly fire each other. They are, well, they're well known for it. Shiva have a tendency to kill themselves with their own friendly fire. OZ Video holding out for the D-gun in the water. Oh no. Commander's uncloaked. Yikes. OZ will pull back. Yeah, go hide in the pond, man. Don't show your commander like that. I don't know if the pond's actually deep enough. Yeah, it might not be deep enough for a commander to actually properly hide in there. That's kind of interesting. All the fighters have been pulled in this direction. We also have the Javelin firing away here. That anti-air truck shooting down some of those T1. Whoa, we have an epic Tyrannus. Well, just a regular Tyrannus, pardon me. A Tyrannus has been built and set up over here, and now we have the machine guns firing away into the distance as well as those cannons. I thought this was a cluster cannon, actually. Nope, just plasma cannons. Okay, just good old-fashioned Legion plasma cannons. They burn hot. and do a bunch of damage, and that machine gun is going to be quite good as well here. We have our win condition in the form of the King of the Skies, the multi-weapon platform that was always destined to rule from above. It's the Tyrannus trying its very best to stay up and running. Fighters here have detached from their detached from their escort rule. I think this Tyrannus could get so much value, but it just isn't engaging. It isn't going towards the enemy base. Like, if we just dove this Tyrannus directly into the enemy base, I think we'd be in a great spot. T2 fighters are all rolling out at this point, though, so there's not really a lot to do. Wow. It looks like the Shiva will get the kill on the commander. GG, though, as, yeah, the red numbers were slowly starting to overwhelm with more and more T2 mexes out on the map. I think Barcast was just a little bit greedier about those mexes, and at the end of the day, that is what this game is all about. GG.
Battle
as
ended.
Barcast TV manages to take the victory. What a wonderful back and forth game between those two. Yeah, you can see the eco really started to scale out of control after that 20-minute mark as we started to head into that late game, and those T2 mexes started to really make the difference. Tons of fusions as well, wonderful for scaling. And yeah, this is where we end up. Thanks a ton for watching. As always, feel free to check out the links down below. There's a bunch of cool stuff, including the Discord, some of the Discords of some of the tournament organizers down there as well, in case you're interested in joining those, and the brand new promotional video that Beyond All Reason Official has put out. I've gone ahead and linked down below as well. You should definitely check it out. It summarizes nicely all the different aesthetic changes that have been made recently to all the lighting stuff. So if you're a fan and if you're interested in what all that is about, definitely go give it a like and go give it a watch. Anyways, hope to see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.